We are on the top of Chaf Aleph Amud Aleph, right at the top. We're about to say another teretz, so let's just say again what the question was. So back on Chaf Amud Beis, we had said Rav Dimi says b'shem Rabbi Yochanan in his shita of how which psukim are referring to which type of shuas. So he said oichel v'le oichel is sheker, meaning if someone makes a shvua on the asid, he says I'm going to eat or I'm not going to eat in the future. That's sheker, and the azhara for that is leishishbu b'shila sheker. That's from the pasuk that talks about sheker. Achalti v'le'achalti, which is le sha'avar, from the past, that's a shvua shav. A shvua shav is a useless shvua. So there's two varieties of useless shvuas that we're going to see in the Gemara. One useless shvua is where someone says, like Rashi gives the example on Amud Aleph, someone says that a man is a woman. You know, it's not 2025 version of this question. It's something that's obviously foolish. So that's a shvua shav. But this Gemara is saying, in addition to that, the shvua shav is where someone makes a shvua about something that already happened. He says, lo achalti, and he did eat. Or he says, achalti, and he didn't eat. That's also another version of a shvua shav, where it's contradicted by the previous facts. And then he said that finally the pasuk of Layachal Dvarai, and that's from the pasuk that mentions L'sitz Hashem Elokecha Hashav, and the pasuk of Layachal Dvarai he says is referring to a someone making a neder. So he asked on that from a brisa that says that sheker shav v'sheker echad, that in some way the brisa says that a shvua shav and a shvua sheker are the same thing. Sumar says that means that they're both l'sha'avar or they're both lahaba, whatever it is, but it sounds like they're saying they're the same thing. So he gave a teretz. So now the Gemara is going to give a second teretz for that question. V'yibay seimo, another teretz for that question. If you're saying that sheker refers to the future and shav refers to the past, how could it say that shav and sheker are equal? V'yibay seimo, because shem shemevi carbon al sheker, kach mevi carbon al shav. Maybe what it's coming to tell you is when the brisa says that the sheker and shav are the same, it doesn't mean that they're both l'sha'avar. What it means to say is that just like you bring a carbon on a sheker, meaning we're understanding sheker to be where he says achalti, this is shvua shalei oichel, and then he eats, or vice versa, which is from our first Mishnah in this Masechta. We said shtaim shein arba, which is a case of oichel v'lo oichel, a person who says I'm going to eat and then he doesn't, or vice versa. He says I'm not going to eat and he does. We said in the first Mishnah that he has to bring a carbon oil v'yared. So just like you bring on that, kach maybe al shav. He also brings for in the past. Rabbi Kiva he the mechayel l'sha'avar kalaba, and this is going according to Rabbi Kiva, who holds that you bring the carbon oil of yared not just on the sha'avar, but not just on the haba, but also on the sha'avar. Now, this might seem strange. Why are we even talking about this? You know, we always understood the first case of the first thing that we learned in this Masechta was a case of shtaim shein arba. We said the shtaim is oichel v'lo oichel, and shein arba is achalti v'lo achalti. But as we saw in Daf Gimel, we're going to see later on, there's a machlekes throughout the Masechta between Rabbi Shmuel and Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Akiva says that shtaim shein arba refers to shvua shalei oichel, and shvua oichel v'lo oichel, achalti v'lo achalti is shtaim shein arba. Rabbi Shmuel, we said that the Mishnah is like Rabbi Akiva, or like Rebbe, who also holds like that, but Rabbi Shmuel disagrees. He says that you only bring a carbon for the future, not for what was past. It's only for the asid that you have a carbon oil of yared, but achalti v'lo achalti, there's no carbon oil of yared. So so when we say that shav and sheker are the same, it doesn't mean that their cases are the same. So it's not a kasha on Rav Dimi, who said that sheker is lil asid and shav is l'sha'avar. It's not. It's when we say that they're the same, we don't mean that the cases are the same, but rather that they have the same din, that they both bring a carbon like Rabbi Akiva. Praktimar, Meisvei. Ezui Shvuah Shav. What Brisa says, what is a Shvuah Shav? Nizba Lishanis es hayedua. It's someone who's coming to change Lishanis. The Mefarshim take out as hayedua Adam. I think the Marshal takes it out. So Shvuah Shav is someone who's coming to change what has already been said. Now, as hayedua Adam has a mashmais, like we said, there's two types of Shvuah Shav. Like we said, there's someone, which is going to be the reason you're going to see later on in the Gemara, why it's necessary to take these words out, because Shav can mean, like Rav Dimi said, B'Shem Rabbi Yochanan, that it means on l'sha'avar, generally l'sha'avar, meaning that a person said something and it's not true because he had done the opposite. He said achalti v'lo achalti, but there's a more intense form of Shvuah Shav, like we said, where a person says a woman is a man, which is something that is just useless and obviously fake news. So what we're talking about over here, Duishua Shav, Nishba L'Shanis, it's talking about the first kind, where he's saying achalti v'lo achalti, and he did eat or he didn't eat, where he's contradicting what he actually did, but it's not something that's generally stupid, foolish. So, which would be L'Shanis to say you do a lot of them. Shvuah Sheker, and what is a Shvuah Sheker? Nishba L'Hachlef, which sounds like Nishba L'Hachlef, Rashi says, L'Shanis is a emes b'shvuasai, hainu l'sha'avar. Sounds like the Brisa is saying that Sheker and Shav are the same thing. Whether you say L'Shanis or L'Hachlef, it means he's changing what he had already done. So l'chayra, it's not like Rav Dimi who said that Sheker is L'Asid as opposed to L'Sha'avar. So it doesn't mean nishba lehachlef, to change what had already happened, but rather nishba umachlef, he makes a shvur now, and later on he doesn't do like he swore. So that is a different version. So then it's not a sira einachanami. Nishba is sheker is going to be l'sa'asid, and shav is l'sha'avar, like Rav Dimi said b'shem Rav Yochanan. So that was all. So that's the end of our analysis of Rav Dimi's pshat, which again Rav Dimi had said that sheker is la'asid and shav is l'sha'avar, and l'yachal dvari, the pasuk of which is the psukim of sheker and the psukim of shav, and the pasuk of l'yachal dvari is referring to nedarim. Now we have a different pshat in how to order the different shvuos. Ki asur Rav Rav Yirmiyah Rav Avo Rav Yochanan. Ravin said, B'Shem Rabbi Yirmiyah, B'Shem Rabbi Avo, B'Shem Rabbi Yochanan. This is Rabbi Avo's pshat and Rabbi Yochanan. Achalti v'lo achalti sheker. He says sheker is going on l'sha'avar. Not like Rav Dimi had said B'Shem Rabbi Yochanan, that it's lahaba, but rather sheker is achalti v'lo achalti. I ate or I didn't eat, and he had eaten or not eaten, where he's contradicting what he had done. And he says there's the azhar for that is from the pasuk that refers to sheker. Oichel v'lo oichel, when he just makes a shvua la'asid, oiver b'lo yachol dvari. The pasuk that Rav Dimi had said comes to tell you nedarim. He doesn't have a pasuk for nedarim. He says it's for the la'asid. So la'yachol dvari is oichel v'lo oichel. Be'ezu he shvua shav, and what is shvua shav referring to? Nizba l'shanis to say yadu adam. That's for the case of a real shvua shav, of like we said, Rashi says on this, as a yadua ala isha isha. So this is the case of real shvua shav, where someone's making a foolish shvua shav that's obvious to everyone. So so again, Rav Dimi had said layachal dvaris for nedarim, and he didn't have any pasuk for l'shanis hasiyadul adam, of someone who makes a foolish shvua shav. Rabbi Avo explains Rabbi Yochanan that he says sheker is l'sha'avar, bal yachal dvaroi is la'asid, and the shvua shav is talking about a real shvua shav of something that makes no sense. Amar Pap Hader Ravo la beferish itmar el miklal itmar. That which Rabbi Avo says, this understanding of what Rabbi Yochanan is saying, he doesn't say he didn't see it the fairish that this was the shita of Rav Yochanan, but he figured it out. And now we're going to have a long shtickle, which at the end it's going to conclude with a raya making it evident that Rabbi Yochanan holds that a shvuah l'sha'avar is a shvuah sheker, and a shvuah for the future is from leyachal dvar. The Amar of Idi Barav and Amar Rav. Amr of Yitzchak, Amr of Yochanan. Rav Idi bar Avin said b'shem Rav Amnon, who said b'shem Rav Yitzchak, who said b'shem Rav Yochanan. Rav Yehuda Ayman mishum Rav Yosei Aglili. Rav Yehuda said b'shem Rav Yosei Aglili. Kol las loisasei shabbatayra lav sheyesh ma'maisa loikan alav. Any lav that has a maisa, the truth that you get malchus. The general rule is a lav that has a maisa, where you do an action, you get malchus in it. V'she'ema maisa ain't loikan alav. And the general rule is that if there's no maisa, if the lav does not involve a physical action, you don't get malchus for it. Chutz, except for the following exceptions. Minishba, someone who makes a shvuah, umeimer, someone who does a tmura. So a nishba, we're going to get back to. A nishba is obviously what we've been talking about. We've been talking until now really about karbanis, but now we're talking about the malchus that you get for making a false shvuah. So even though there's no maisa, saying something is not considered a maisa. And the maimer is someone who makes a tmura, where he takes one carbon, he designates a carbon, and then he says, I want to switch this carbon with a different animal. So he's not physically doing anything, he's just saying this animal should replace my original carbon. That's no action. And even so, the Torah says you get malchus. Makalas chaver b'shem, someone who curses his chaver with the shame. So Zak Gemara, and all these are from Psukim. But Nishba Minalan, where is the first thing that we said that a Nishba, someone who makes a shvu, even though there's no Maisa, he still gets Malchus? Where does that come from? Amar Yechon Mishum Rishim B'Yechoi, Amar Kra Leisisa Hashem Elikecha Lashav. The Torah says you shouldn't use the name of Hashem for nothing, meaning making a shvu. I still don't know the answer to your question of whether all these shvuas have to be b'dafka using the Shem Hashem, or if it just means, if it's just an expression. Kilo Yinake. Because the Rebbeinu Shalom will not absolve someone who does this. So Bezin Shalmaila Eminakanoisai. So we deduce from this that Pasuk says that Kilo Yinake, the end of the Pasuk is Kilo Yinake Hashem Es Sheyisa Shmoy Lashav. So it's saying that the Rebbeinu Shalom is not going to absolve you. So we deduce, we make an inference from the fact that Torah says the Rebbeinu Shalom is not going to absolve him, but it means that the Bezin Shalmata, the Bezin in this world, can give him Malchus and thereby absolve him from his from what he did.
So that should apply to nether as well. If he makes a nether with Shem and Shem.
A nether? Where do we see nether? This is talking about.
Sure, we're talking about sure.
Yeah.
So, but you can make a nether with Shem and Shem also.
Well, the point is, Leisisa Shem Lekecha Lashav. It's the Lashav is the focus. Lashav was saying, we're going to see what Lashav refers to, but Lashav doesn't mean a nether.
So Shav, there's no nether Shav.
Right. There's not even every shvuah is a shvuah shav. There's a shvuah bitui, where a person says he's going to do something and he doesn't do it. That's not a shvuah shav. Everyone agrees the few for the future is not a shvuah shav. That's a shvuah bitui. Levata b'sosayim that we mentioned, lagabi da'oy leviyarid. And then there's the shvuah sa'edis, which is entirely different, where you make shvuah about edis. We're talking about specifically about shvuah shav. And a neder is not a shvuah at all. A neder is where you say this thing should be also to me. So it's no relevance to shav. Shav is about what you say about yourself. You say, I'm not going to, let's say shav could be, we're discussing what the two options are. Rav Dimi has said l'shav means where you say a man is a woman, so it's a useless. Shav means nothingness. Yeah, l'shav means useless. So he says it means when you say something that's useless, you're saying gold is silver, or you say the sky is green. But the original pshat we said b'shem Reb Dimi was l'shav. Shav is even if you say I didn't eat and you did eat the previous day, because that's also in a sense it's a useless thing. You're contradicting what you had done. It's not, you're not saying it for edus. You're just saying it's tamazai. So that's what he holds the shav. So we learn from the pasuk. The pasuk says about when you use lashmi lashav, that we say that the Rebbeinu Shalom is not going to punish him, but he's going to get punishment from Bezdin. He's going to get malchus. Bezdin shamat the malchus. I'm not going to say. Amle Papa Abai. Papa asked Abai, Dilma hachi kamar rachmano lo yinaka klal. Maybe when the Torah says lo yinaka, it means that the person is not going to get any absolution at all, neither from Bezdin Shalmaila or from Bezdin Shalmata. He doesn't get malchus. If it just had said because he won't get absolution, then it would be accurate. There's an inference of the fact that it said the Rebbeinu Shalom is not going to let him off the hook. So the Brisa continues. Ashkan Shua Shav. That tells you about a Shua Shav that you get malchus. Shua Sheker Minalan. How do you know you get malchus on a Shua Sheker, even though there's no Maisa in it? Since the pasuk said two times, it says Loisisa Hashem Alekecha Lashav. But since it says it two times, so once we already said one time that a Shua Shav gets malchus, even though it's a lav she'ein by Maisa, so we say the second one is for Shua Sheker. Now we haven't said exactly what a Shua Sheker is, so that's yet to be determined. The Gemara is going to still explain that. Hi Shua Sheker Hechidami. What is this Shua Sheker that was saying that in addition to a Shua Shav, it gets a malchus even though it's a lav she'ein by Maisa? Shua Sheker does as well. If it means a Shua Sheker, it's for the future that he says, I'm not going to eat, and he ate lav she'esh b'maisahu. That doesn't fall into this category at all. We wouldn't need a pasuk to tell you that you get malchus for it as a lav she'ein b'maisahu, because it's a lav she'esh b'maisahu. He said, I'm not going to eat, and he ate. The eating is an action. So that's when he was over on the Shua. So it's a lav she'esh b'maisahu. Ve'elo da'amar Shua she'oichel. The loyachal, where he said, I'm going to eat, and he didn't eat. So even if you say lav she'ein b'maisa is like an love on certain Shavuos, this is a lav she'ein b'maisa that you don't get Shavuos, you don't get a malchus on. Someone said, I'm going to eat this loaf today, and he didn't eat it. Both of them agree that you don't get malchus. He says that lav she'ein b'maisa does apply in this case, in the future. Rish Lakish says it's even for a different reason. He says it's not Rish Lakish like we saw earlier. He says the lav she'ein b'maisa you really could get malchus for, but he says there's a different problem when you give the hasra. You never know if he's about to be over. For some reason you can't do it the second before the end of the day, so it's no way to give a hasra zavadai. So therefore that's why you can't get malchus on it. So therefore Rabavo we had to explain. So we're trying to still understand what is the case that we said that the Torah says shav two times to tell you not just a shua shav, even though it's a lav she'ein b'maisa and it's like an alav, but it's also saying a shua sheker. And we said a shua sheker can't be la'asid because the manavshach, the shua where he says I'm not going to eat any aid is a yesh b'maisa, and Rabbi Avo says b'shem Rabbi Yochanan that. Rabbi Yochanan says that if it was that I'm going to eat and he doesn't, that's a lav she'ein b'maisa she'ein like an alav. That's not included in this limud. So he says it's referring to where he said I ate or I didn't eat, or he says I ate and he didn't eat. He says in the past I ate and it's not true. In fact, the Gemara Maishna, why should it be referring to the case of achalti and he didn't eat, as opposed to where he said in the future, I'm going to eat and he didn't eat? the way the Torah was marba Shavuos sheker is it said shav 2 times. So it's saying it's something similar to Shavuos shav. Ma shav l'shavar, just like a Shavuos shav l'kuliyam. Everyone agrees a Shavuos shav, whether it's referring to a past Shavuot or it's referring to something that's obviously untrue, like Isha. Both of them are talking about for the past. Av sheker nami l'shavar. So when we say sheker, it's also talking about l'shavar. So this is like Rav Dimi, right? This is where Rav Dimi saw. This is how Rav Avo understood that Rabbi Yochanan holds that Shavuos sheker is l'shavar, not like Rav Dimi had said that Shavuos sheker is lahaba. There's a long way to get to the end of this, what this raya is. So again, this is all to show how we know that we said Rav Avo is la befershim and mechlole. You see from the conclusion of this whole long analysis that Rav Avo holds that the lineup is Rav Dimi. Again, Rav Dimi says the lineup is Shavuos sheker is la'asid, Shavuos shav is l'sha'avar, and la'yachal dvaroi is coming to tell you nedarim, and Rav Avo understands Rabbi Yochanan. That was all Rav Dimi b'shem Rabbi Yochanan. Rav Avo understands Rabbi Yochanan that sheker is l'sha'avar achalti v'lo achalti, and shav is a real shav is ish. He says about an ish that it's an isha, and loyachal dvarai is coming to tell you the case of la'asid. Eitzer Rabbi Yirmiyah l'Rabbi Avo. Rabbi Yirmiyah asked on Rabbi Avo on his shita that he says shav is l'sha'ava. Shvua shalei oichel kikazu. Shvua shalei oichlena. Shvua shalei oichlena. Someone says a shvua, I'm not going to eat this kikar, and then he repeated it 3 times. He says, I'm not going to eat it. I'm not going to eat it. And then he went, of course, and he ate it. He's only chayev 1. Zui shvuas bitoy shechayven als doine makas al shegosei carbon. This is a shvuas bitoy. This is an expression of shvua that you mechoyev for doing it on purpose. You get malchus. B'mezid you get malchus, and if you do it b'shoigig, you bring the carbon oil of yared al shegosei carbon oil of yared. So it's talking about zui lemutei mai. This is the shvuas bitoy that oichel v'loy oichel is a shvuas bitoy that you chayev on these things. What is it coming to be ma'it? My love lemutei achalti v'loy achalti deloy lucky. Is it not coming to say that if you say l'sha'avar that he doesn't come malchus? That's not like Rabbi Avo said b'shem Rabbi Yochanan that he said that the pasuk of shav, of sheker is referring to achalti v'loy achalti. So Gemara loy lemutei achalti v'loy achalti mi carbon. It's not talking about the malchus. It's talking about the carbon, right? We had just seen from this whole drasha that Rabbi Yochanan holds that you bring a carbon that there is a carbon for achalti v'loy achalti. That means even though it's a lav she'en b'maisa, even so you get malchus. And it seems to be the Gemara is suggesting that when we say it's only for shuas b'iti that you get malchus, which la'asid, but not for the sha'avar. That's not like Rabbi Yochanan just said. So it's coming to exclude achalti from being a carbon oil of a yared. He dal shigasa zuhi dal shigasa carbon oil of a yared, meaning just a shuas b'iti for the future. That's what you have a carbon oil of it. Achalti loy. Rabbi Yishmael, and this is like Rabbi Yishmael. This is the Chaira, right? This is very strange to us. The whole time we said the first thing we said on the first Mishnah is Shtaim Shein Arba is Eichel B'lei Eichel is Shtaim, and the Shein Arba is Achalti B'lei Achalti. And we said that those are the things that you bring carbon oil of yared. Now all of a sudden we're saying that on the Sha'ava you don't bring a carbon oil of yared. So we're saying this is Rabbi Yishmael Dama Ein Chayav Ela Asid Lavai. Avol Milka Lucky. He says you don't bring a carbon, you only bring a carbon on l'asid, but not on l'sha'avar. But you do get malchus for l'sha'avar. So that still could be like the way Rabbi Avo said b'shem Rabbi Yochanan that you get malchus on a lav she'en b'maisa, but it's not going to be included on the Sha'ava. The Shavuos Shav is not going to be included in the carbon oil. In fact, the Gemara, Amos Seifa, I'll ask you from a Mishnah later on. There's a Mishnah on Daf Chav Tes. Zui Shavuos Shav Shechavin Al Zayna Makas Al Shegosei Potter. The Mishnah there is talking about, we're going to see shortly, this is about someone who says all kinds of nonsense things. He said, let's the Taparashi, Aimer al Diktani Basar, the Hach Ezu Hishua Shavs Nishbal Shansi Yudul Adam, Amar al Amid Shal Evan Shu Shal Zav, he says about a pillar of stone that it's gold, or like we said, a man that he's a woman, any kind of something like that, that's nonsense. So we say about that Yechayev, this is where Yechayev, if you do it b'mezid, you get Malkus, but you potter, if you do it b'shegig, this is a Shuashav, it's not the Shuas Bitui that you're going to be Yechayev a carbon oil of Yert. So Zui Lamute, my love Lamute, Achalti, V'le Isn't it coming to exclude only where he made the more extreme version of a Shuashav, where he said something that's nonsensical? But Achalti, V'le where he just contradicted what he had done, he said, I ate and he didn't eat, that he's saying on that you don't get Malkus. That you get Malkus for this, but not for a regular Shlava. So this is contradicting Rabbi Avo, Shez B'Shem Rabbi Yochanan. So Zuid al Shigasa Potter mi carbon. This is saying on this that you potter for a carbon. Aval Chalti L'Chalti al Shigasa Chayiv carbon. We're saying that you are going to be Chayiv a carbon oil v'yared on the Shavar. Rabbi Kiva he the Mechayiv Shavar Kalaba. And this is like Rabbi Kiva, who learns like we had said from the beginning, like we said in that first Mishnah, and that first, if you remember, we had a discussion of who is the Man the Amar of our Mishnah. We said it's Rebbe who holds that you bring a carbon both for La'asid and L'Sha'ab. And Rabbi Kiva happens to be, he holds like that. He just disagrees about whether you bring a carbon for Tumas, where someone has a helam on Tumas Mikdash. But he agrees with Rebbe that it goes both on L'Sha'avar and Le'haba. So this brisa, when it says Le'chalti, that it's saying that you're only going to be potter from a carbon on Shavuos Shav, a real Shavuos Shav or extreme Shavuos Shav where he says something foolish, but just a regular Shavuos Shav where he says about L'Sha'avar, he will get Malkus. But we had just said on the previous Mishnah, the Mishnah from Daf, I think Chav Tes, we said it's Rabbi Shmuel that who holds that you don't bring a carbon L'Sha'avar. And now we're saying on the next Mishnah, these are the Mishnayos on Daf Chav Zayin, Daf Chav Tes, we say it's going like Rabbi Kiva, who holds you do bring a carbon on L'Sha'avar. Reisha Rabbi Shmuel, V'Sefer Rabbi Kiva. Can you say that this, very often we have our Mishnayos divided up by the Gemara, but the Gemara assumes that the whole parak is all one Mishnah. We assume it's the same Tana who's saying everything in this parak, and this is all different Mishnayos in the same parak. And he's saying one is like Rabbi Shmuel and one is like Rabbi Kiva, where they be chaylik on whether L'Sha'avar brings a carbon. So Amar Kula Rabbi Kiva. It's all Rabbi Kiva. V'reisha lav l'mutei achalti v'lo achalti b'carbon. The Reisha is not coming to exclude when someone said a L'Sha'avar that you don't bring a carbon. It's coming to say that if someone says Eichel and he doesn't eat, he doesn't get Malchus. Avakav Mechayev. But he does get a carbon. So it means it's talking about it's talking about someone who la'asid, and he's saying Einachanami is going to bring a carbon, but Eichel is not going to get Malchus, like we said, because it's a lav she'ein ba ma'isa. We just said about Lishav, which is L'Sha'avar, that we learned Shav, it says by Yeshua Shek. And according to Rav Dimi, that's referring to a carbon L'Sha'avar. We're saying both of them are going to bring a carbon. I'm sorry, both of them are going to get Malchus. Avol Kavim Mechayev, but he will be Mechayev. Why is it Taka that we say that you bring a that you get Malchus? That when the pasuk says shav, it's referring to a chalti v'le chalti, that you get malchus for l'sha'avar, but you don't get malchus for lehaba. Since it says shav, the first shav is talking about the shav of saying something that's obviously not true. And then the second shav is saying shav where he contradicted what he actually did, the other version of shur shav. But both of those are l'sha'ava. We say that, so that's why we say the second shav is going l'sha'ava rather. We're talking about what's lahaba. Why would it come to be mayit l'sha'ava? Sorry, hold on a second. Okay. Dr. Gemara. Okay, let's stop here. It's not fair to start with this right now. Okay.